Final thoughts.
It is 2020. And the year of our Lord, 2020.
We shouldn't be making people suffer through this.
In 2020. We want to bring joy. We want to bring happiness. And what we want to do is we want to make our listeners richer.
Yeah.
It's time for free money!
See, but all you're doing is making
free
them more
money!
broke.
My college football picks against the spread. Love that money clip art. Just like...
Yeah, they're kind of uneven, too.
A lot of production value here on Texas football.
Do you think
today.
I want to spend my time making free money look good? Because I don't.
Listen, I make free money look good.
Oh,
so
geez.
with 500 last week, we're 28-21 on the year. Okay, we've got 9 games, and that's with one canceled too, because North Texas and UTEP is donezo.
Yeah, R.I.P.
R.I.P. Miners.
Minor train.
So we want to have that. We got 9 games this week. Including 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 within the state borders. But we will start without the state borders, Pickle. We start in Boca Raton.
That was just quite a transition there for you, but I need to workshop that one. Starting off, UTSA heading down to Boca Raton to take on Florida Atlantic, 11 a.m. on Saturday. The Owls favored by 5 at home.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup here. One thing that I think is a little bit odd is you have a Florida Atlantic team that I believe is 1-1. They've played 2 games this year. Meanwhile, they're now taking on UTSA, who I believe are they 5-1 or 4-2? Something like that. They've played since significantly more games.
I think they're 4-2.
They've played significantly more games than them, and so as a result, I am a little bit more inclined. I'm a little inclined to take the team that's got the experience. Now, look, UTSA is going on the road. It's an early kick. I'm always wary of an early East Coast kick for non-East Coast teams. I'm a little wary of that. Florida Atlantic, I do think, does have some talent. I think that Malcolm Davidson is pretty darn good. But I do I think they run the ball pretty well, but I do not think they can score. And I think UTSA's defense has shown that they can slow down opponents and muck things up. I'm going to go with UTSA on the road. I'm going to take them +5. I think that UTSA is able to keep this thing close for pretty much the entire game. And you know what? It would not surprise me at all if they won this game outright. I think there's a lot of things pointing to them. I think that this FAU team has talent, but I don't think they've realized it offensively.
They're also working with a new coach this year, too, and they've only played 2 games, so that doesn't help anything.
I entirely agree.
Who is the new coach?
By the way, UTSA, here's another thing. So UTSA, let me tell you this. San Antonio. UTSA is... What is your record, UTSA?
They're 2-4.
That sounds right. But in any case, they are 7-0 in their they're 7-0 in their last 7 games against the spread. So I'm going to continue that heater. I like UTSA +5. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we have UCF is heading over to Houston, 1 p.m. on Saturday. UCF favored by 2.5 on the road over the Cougs.
Yeah, a weird game. A real weird game. Central Florida is, if you haven't paid attention to UCF, this is not the UCF of, claiming national championships. In fact, this is a UCF team that I think overall is probably not as good as Houston. I think Houston's a better team. Now, here's the other thing, though, okay, is that Houston has 2 very bad habits. 2. One is that they have a tendency to get themselves into 3rd and long situations and just not be able to dig themselves out. That's one thing. So 1st and 2nd down are absolutely critical in this one. The other thing is that they have a tendency to stink on ice in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely stink on ice.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I'm a little bit wary of, is that I want to make sure that this is a team that is able to, go out there and get things going in the first quarter because they've really struggled out of the gates. Now, look, I do think that Houston is going to be able to move the ball because I think that Central Florida's defense is pretty meh. Okay? I think they're going to be able to move the ball. This is going to come down to whether or not. But the one thing that I will say about UCF, their offense really good. Like their offense can light it up. The question is, can Houston slow them down? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say they're able to slow them down at home. I think that being at home is certainly going to help in this one. I like Houston plus 2.5 in this one.
At home, and it's going to be colder than what UCF is used to.
Yeah, well, they'll be colder than what Houston's used to as well.
Right.
I think that Clayton Tune puts up a big game. I think that this is a game where you see Dana Holgerson's offense really take off. I like Houston plus 2.5 in this one. What's next, Pickle?
Real fast to give you your answer, UTSA is 4-3 and 2-1 in conference.
So they played 7 games.
They've played 7 games compared to the 2 games that FAU has played.
That is crazy.
Yep.
Crazy.
So up next we have another Conference USA matchup as your Fighting Rice Owls head over to Southern Miss to take on the Eagles. 2 p.m. on Saturday. Southern Miss favored by 1.5 at home.
Okay. There's almost no reason to take Rice in this game. Okay? And it pains me to say this.
Yeah.
There's almost no reason to take Rice in this game. I do not think they're going to be able to slow down Southern Miss. Like, on paper, I think that this Southern Miss offense is really good.
Good quarterback, good running back.
Jack Abraham has not been as advertised, but he's been pretty good.
Yes.
Okay? This offense has been very good. There's a lot of things about this team. I think that they run the ball with Frank Gore, although he's been a little bit overrated, I think. This is a team that I think Rice is going to have trouble slowing them down, and that Southern Miss, at home, a lot of things point to that. But there is one big glaring thing. And that one big glaring thing is who's going to coach Southern Miss. If you missed this, Scotty Walden left. He took the job at Austin Peay.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah, Dog Coach High School.
He has left. Now Austin Peay's a college. But no, this is he left to take over at Southern Miss when Jay Hobson stepped down. Okay? He took over on September 7th, and then Scotty Walden this week said,
I was going to say, wasn't it during the middle of the week, too?
Yes. I'm going to go coach an FCS team.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the head coach at Austin Peay, a team that's not even playing right now.
So, what happened?
So, look, I'm here to tell you, on paper, as much as I think Mike Collins has helped to invigorate this Rice offense, and I do think that the Rice offense is better, I think the defense is going to struggle this year, and I think it's going to struggle against Jack Abraham.
But
on paper, there's no reason to take Rice. But I legitimately don't know who Southern Miss is going to coach. Who's going to coach them?
Maybe it's
and you
maybe
wonder
it's Jack.
what impact that has on them. Now, with that said, I am going to take Southern Miss.
The spread's too small.
I'm going to take Southern Miss minus 1.5. If this was like, because I believe this thing started at like 8.5.
Yeah, if this was a touchdown.
And I think the juice is all heading to Rice, and understandably so. It's just, this is immeasurable. You don't know how to put this thing together because of the flux at Southern Miss. I do think at home, I think they're better than Rice.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think that the game is played within the sidelines, not outside the sidelines. Once they go on the field, I do think Southern Miss is going to win. I like Southern Miss minus 1.5.
Interested to see, too, how Rice bounces back from last week. If it's like still they're mad about the quadruple doink, or if it's, a little bit of fire.
A little bit of fire. Who knows? What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we've got Big 12 matchup, TCU at Baylor, 2:30 p.m. Saturday. The Horned Frogs favored by 2.5 at McLean Stadium.
Oh, boy.
And, I mean, this is
like,
this
I
is
always,
rivalry,
like, the
too.
thing is, like, I want to get excited about this game because I like this game and I think this rivalry is interesting. But it's like, this strikes me, and I like to be positive about things. But this game strikes me as like who can mitigate their own flaws best.
Yep. I could not agree
Who
more.
can mitigate their own flaws best? Because for TCU, the flaw is that like their offense just like just still kind of stuck in the mud. Like, they can't. And the biggest thing for me that's disappointing about TCU this year is that I thought this was going to be a team that really was going to be able to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought they were going to be able to run the ball, but instead they're averaging 3.7 yards a carry. Their leading rusher is Max Duggan.
Yeah,
and I
you
like Max
cannot
Duggan.
rely on him to do everything.
No, you can't ask Max Duggan to go out there and do everything. And so can they mitigate that, especially going up against what's been a pretty salty Baylor defense?
Mm-hmm.
Baylor's defense, not been a problem. Let's go to the other side now. What?
Are you ever going to trust your quarterback?
Like, I just don't understand what Baylor's offensive problem is right now. Because, like, they cannot do – I mean, they are 82nd in the nation in yards per pass. Mm-hmm. 82nd.
It's literally the meme of the stick figure with the stick poking
like,
it, going,
something.
do something.
Like, so, and beyond that, I do think that, like, I will say that I think that Baylor is capable of exploiting some weaknesses as they exist in the TCU defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think TCU's defense, at least from a in the secondary, it's fine. It's okay.
They kind of got torched by an Oklahoma team that shouldn't have torched them.
But then I'm not wild about this TCU defense. Look, I hate to be super negative about both these teams. I just have these big questions about them. In the end, if you're going to give me a home dog in a rivalry game, I'm going to take a home dog in a rivalry game. I'm going to go Baylor plus 2.5. I have no feel for this game, like none at all. If this could absolutely be like 49-10 TCU. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Because there's another thing, and I hate to get into like how do I put it? I hate to get into like off the field like intangible stuff, but it's like is Baylor listening to Dave Aranda? Mm-hmm. Like is the voice falling on deaf ears? Because right now there's a lot of like just smoke around the program mm-hmm. of like some infighting, right? You heard reports that John Lovett was going to leave the team, and like people are having to come to the defense of Charlie Brewer. Charlie Brewer's under a lot of fire, yep. Right? Is that going to bring them together, or is that going to tear them apart? I think we find out a lot about that this week. I think Baylor is going to be able to win this game at home because I have big questions about TCU, but I will go with Baylor plus 2.5 at home. If only because it's a home dog. I don't feel good about that. My actual betting advice is to stay away from that game.
Just don't even touch it.
Yes. What's next?
Up next, another Big 12 matchup as the Horns head over to Oklahoma State to take on the 6th-ranked Cowboys. 3 p.m. on Saturday, OSU favored by 3.5 at home.
So I believe, if I read this right, I believe that they're going to get Spencer Sanders back. Yeah, Spencer Sanders is reportedly back for Oklahoma State. Of course, a former Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year. Although it has not stopped them from having an outstanding offense in his without him, because their offense has been very good.
They're ranked number 6.
Offense has been excellent. And yeah, I think that this is an offense that, 36th in the nation in yards in when you're talking about yards per game. Mm-hmm. This is a team that I think their offense, especially, they've been able to run the ball, which is something that we didn't necessarily think that they were going to be able to do, but they have really lit it up offensively. Chuba Hubbard has been as advertised for this team.
Yep.
But with all the weirdness with him in the offseason, we didn't really know what their status was going to be. He's been great. They've kind of battled through injuries, and Shane Illingsworth has stepped in a big way, the freshman, and kept that train on the tracks. But the real strength of this team has been on the defensive side, where the defense has been excellent, and most notably, it's been excellent against the pass. And so this is a game that if Texas is going to win this game, they finally have to get the running game going.
Yep.
It has to happen.
Yep.
It's either going to happen now or it's probably just not going to happen. That said, they're going on the road. Going on the road to Stillwater. Stillwater has not necessarily been a welcoming place for the Longhorns historically. I'm going to take, and at 3.5, that seems like a line that I feel comfortable with. I'm going to take Oklahoma State. I'm going to lay the 3.5 points. I like Oklahoma State minus 3.5. I think they win this game by about a touchdown. I do think this game is close, and if anything, I wonder if Texas could come up with like one or two special teams plays to really put them over the top. That would certainly be helpful. I think this game I like Oklahoma State minus 2.5, minus 3.5 rather, simply because I want to see. I can't believe that Texas can run the ball until they do it. And this is a game in which they've got to run the ball to win.
They need defensive touchdowns,
Maybe.
too, in my opinion.
They may need one.
To keep that defense not having to go against their offense.
All right, what's next, Pickle?
Up next, some SEC action as Woo Pig Sooie heads on over to number 8 Texas A&M, 6:30 p.m. on Saturday. The Fighting Aggies favored by 12.5 over Arkansas.
Okay, so this is now a great. What I love about this, we are finally going to test the hypothesis. Okay.
Oh, if they just can't beat Arkansas.
What? No, they always beat Arkansas. They always beat Arkansas.
Yeah, barely. Barely.
Right, but this game is at Kyle Field. They moved it away from AT&T Stadium. But for the past umpteen years, whenever Texas A&M meets Arkansas at AT&T Stadium, it is always the dumbest game of the year.
Especially when A&M is ranked, I feel like.
Yeah,
that's when it gets the worst.
Well, because that's the thing is that A&M's usually pretty good. You know, maybe not elite, but usually pretty good. And
they're
Arkansas
starting to creep into the rankings.
And Arkansas has generally been
terrible.
trash. And there's been no reason for Arkansas to hang with A&M. None. Now you've got an interesting situation because you do have an Arkansas team that's got a pulse.
It has not been a dumpster fire.
They have been pretty good, and especially on the defensive side. Hayden Henry and Grant Morgan and a team that makes plays. Jalen Catalon, the former Mansfield Legacy kid. They've got playmakers. Bumper Pool from Lovejoy. A lot of playmakers.
Bumper Pool.
A lot of playmakers we like on the defensive side. I don't think their offense is very good. And that's what in the end is going to doom them, and why I'm taking A&M minus 12.5, because I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball against an A&M defense that has been pretty good. But what we will find out, like this basically is a litmus test. Again, on paper, you look at this and you go, A&M is, I think, at home, definitely 2 touchdowns better than Arkansas. In my opinion, on paper. But
historically,
is it a case that whenever they get together, it's crazy? Or is it a case of whenever they get together at AT&T Stadium, it's crazy? That's the big question. I'm going to take A&M minus 12.5. I don't feel good about it at all because this is the dumbest game of the year every year. But, yeah, I'm going to go with A&M minus 12.5. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, we will go with Navy taking on number 22 ranked SMU in Dallas, 6:30 p.m. Saturday. SMU favored by 13 at home.
Navy, or both teams looking to bounce back from disappointing losses last week. Of course, Navy lost to Houston, got kind of clobbered by Houston, while SMU lost their game last week to Cincinnati. Pretty handily. I will just say this. I think that a lot of this comes down to what do you think of the SMU defense, and specifically what do you think of like the SMU rushing defense, because they've got to be able to slow down this triple option. But I'm not sure it's really necessarily going to matter, and I'll tell you why. I'm starting to wonder if the Navy defense just isn't very good. And you've seen that the past couple of weeks. Whenever they go out there, they gave up 37 to Houston, right? They gave up 40 to Air Force. They gave up 55 to BYU. The only teams that they've held relatively in check are not very good. They were decent against Tulane. They were decent against Temple. They were decent against East Carolina. None of those teams are necessarily great.
Because they don't have good rushing defenses.
And they also don't have good rushing defenses. This is, to me, I think that the SMU offense should have an opportunity, hopefully, if they're able to figure things out, they should be able to feast on what should be a pretty poor Navy defense. And then furthermore, I'm just not sure Navy's never built for big points. I'm just not sure they're built for big points. I do think that SMU goes in there, and I think they win by 2 touchdowns. I'm going to go with SMU minus 13 in this one. What's next, Pickle?
Back to the Big 12 we go. The Oklahoma Sooners heading over to Red Raider Land to take on Texas Tech, 7 o'clock p.m. on Saturday. Sooners favored by 14 on the road.
Yeah, this is a great question of, do you believe in, like, how severe is your recency bias?
Right.
Okay? Because if you're just going on last week, you would say, OU offense
is rolling. Yep.
And if you're just going on last week, you'd go Texas Tech defense.
Not good.
I don't know. They beat West Virginia.
Yeah.
I thought that they actually took a step forward. I thought their linebackers played pretty well. I would say last week was their best defensive performance. So I would say, yeah, you would look at them and say both of them trending in the right direction. Now, I also think neither of those units are as good as they showed last week.
Right.
And the question is, where's the regression, right? The other side of the ball, I do think, is going to be pretty interesting because you've also got an OU defense that I think is meh up against a Texas Tech offense that I think is meh. And so what happens then? This is also night game in Lubbock. Mm-hmm. And you know how I feel about night games in Lubbock.
Yeah.
This one's tough because 14's like too perfect of a line.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to take OU. I'm going to go OU minus 14. I don't feel good about it. But I do think that offense maybe figured something out and they clicked. And I don't think I think that in a lot of ways, OU is built to exploit Tech's defensive weaknesses a little bit better.
And that's what I said about I don't think Texas Tech's defense. I think that if OU starts getting an early lead, I think that the Tech defense kind of lays down at that point.
Maybe.
I don't see them being able to
and
stop
especially
them.
backup quarterback in Henry Columbia. I don't. I'm going to go with OU minus
but
14.
Night game in Lubbock.
Night game in Lubbock. Night game in Lubbock's the big equalizer.
Yep.
But I will say that I'm going to take OU minus 14. And finally, Pickle.
Finally, we go to the Raging Cajuns taking on the Fighting Ishmael Johnsons of Texas State, 7 o'clock p.m. on Saturday. Raging Cajuns favored by 16.5 over the Bobcats.
Okay.
Sad day.
Disrespectful.
Sad day.
I am disrespected by this line. Disrespected by this line.
Especially at home.
Okay.
Over 2
Now,
scores.
here is the thing, though, okay? Louisiana's defense is really good. It's very, very solid. And most especially, they are excellent in the secondary, and they are very, very good at not giving you anywhere to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. Okay? This is once again a game in which the Texas State running game is going to have to step up. It has to. They have to find a way to move the ball. And they haven't been, let's remember, they have not been like every single year they haven't been, or every single week they haven't been terrible. There have been times where Calvin Hill and Brock Sturgis have had big games. They need that in a big way because I don't think they're going to be able to throw the ball against Louisiana. Now, I also don't think that this Louisiana offense is too much to write home about. They're a team that runs the ball pretty effectively, but they're throwing the passing game's fine. There's a team that wins with their defense. That's why they are off to this start. Okay, you're giving me 3 possessions at home. 3 possessions at home. Let's go, Bobs.
Be a homer.
I like Texas State plus 16.5. They're able to keep this thing within 2 touchdowns. That's what I think. Odds makers. That's what I think.
Here first, folks.
Disrespectful line. Disrespectful.
Do the Bobcats some justice.
Don't like it. I'm taking Texas State plus 16.5. So those are my free money picks. I like UTSA plus 5. I like Houston plus 2.5. I like Southern Miss minus 1.5. I like Baylor plus 2.5. I like Oklahoma State minus 3.5. I like Texas A&M minus 12.5. I like SMU minus 13. I like OU minus 14. And I like Texas State plus 16.5 in a disrespectful line.